Welcome to Confessions of a Youth Worker, the podcast that lifts the lid on the inspiring, challenging and often untold stories from the world of youth and community work. I'm Sabrina Dennis, CEO of First Class Foundation, and from where I've sat over the last few years, I've seen the incidents of knife crime, gun crime and more tragedy and loss than I could have ever imagined. Over the last 2 years, youth violence has increased by 13% and drug-related offences by 52%, making youth violence a core priority for local police. In each episode, I'll be diving into the heart of the work that is shaping the future of our communities and the lives of young people everywhere. This is Confessions of a Youth Worker. Welcome back, guys. This is episode 2 of Confessions of a Youth Worker. I'm joined by I always see it in my chest just popped up, you know. This is going to be one of those, a real conversation. I'm joined by the mighty Black Jackets, a partnership formed of several organisations that work with us at First Class Foundation to do some real stuff. The episode title for this is When Ish Gets Real, because, you know, I don't like to swear, but if I could, I would. But anyway, I'm joined by the mighty Leon Moses from Plug CIC.
Thank you.
Nathan Dennis, founder trustee of First Class Foundation.
Nice to be here.
Colleen Scott, a member of the Black Jackets team, and Antonio Henry, CEO and founder of Made Mentor. Listen, guys, no gang signs today. Okay, no gang signs.
Save that for later.
Save that for later. We want to see who you repping. We want to see who you're repping later. Okay, what you're repping now. You're all repping good stuff. I know we've done some phenomenal work together already, and while we're here, I just wanted to have a real chat, just about, you know, what it's like when it hits the fan, because it does. You guys were commissioned to do some of the real heavy lifting in terms of youth work. We've already spoken to some members of our team previously about what is a youth worker, but because I don't think everybody's got the same answer, I want to hear what you guys think. So, guys, I don't know who wants to go first, and don't all jump at once.
Go on, I'll go.
You'll go. What does the role of a youth worker mean to you?
For me, the role of a youth worker is someone who's always available, always makes himself available for young people. Somebody that's always there, somebody that's listened, someone who's going to have a non-judgmental approach, somebody who young people can relate to, and most importantly, someone who just cares and someone who gets it. I think you have to get it. You have to get it as a youth worker.
What does it mean? What do you mean by get it?
Like, you have to understand, you have to know what time it is. You have to actually, what's it say? You have to be able to spread the butter. You have to know what time it is. You have to be able to eat the same thing that they eat, be able to relate, be able to engage, to know, you know, you're from the streets, that you can relate, you can talk the language.
Sounded like you got that straight out of the chat. It was a phenomenal answer. Phenomenal answers, prepped and ready, like it came with the goods, lived it. But I felt the passion that came. What about anyone else? Like, what is a youth worker to you guys?
Yeah, I co-sign what Leon says. I think there also has to be an element of academia as well, which you have to also understand the theory side of what we're doing, because the problem is that we've got a lot of our youth workers that have the passion, but when it comes to actually knowing the knowledge behind it, they don't know how to articulate themselves in that way, where you have to have a mix of both, where to say, actually, I understand the academia, but I also understand the practical, what we're going to be in the streets, and have the love and passion to actually want change for our community or the community that you serve. So it's a hard one, because obviously everybody's different. Everyone has different skill sets. Everyone has different expertise. But actually, the main key thing that it comes down to is the passion, the heart that you come in out with to support the community that you serve.
Big. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I would say my kind of definition of a youth worker is someone that works on behalf of young people and serves them.
Mm-hmm. Let's drop the mic. Just come with it. Serve. What do you mean, though? What does that mean to serve?
Yeah, it's like making them the priority. That makes sense. It's about their well-being. It's about trying to help them go forward. It's working on behalf of young people.
Like a youth advocate.
Yeah.
Youth advocate, Carly.
I think as well it's also about being relatable. Like when I don't know, like how, I'm not exposing my age, but when we were young, it's like it's very different to now. Like, you've got pressures from so many different things, social media, the fact that, you know, it's if someone disrespects you, you're not coming back and dealing with them with your fist. Some people might come with different objects, and sometimes it's the world that we live in now. If you can sit in a space as a youth worker to kind of understand, you know what, okay, it's not like how we used to do it, but let's see how we can not go back to that, but definitely not do that side. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think going on the back of what you're saying, I think there's also a practical element, just relaying off what everyone's saying, is that we're out there, we're actually in the community, we're actually seen by the young people to say, actually, these guys are the guys to go to when I need help. We are actually the trusted adults for them. So I think judging by generations, I don't feel we had that like that. Like, we had some people, but there wasn't really a connect with them. It was kind of like, I connected with the people that were potentially doing wrong. We're saying, no, we're doing right, but we're also out there like how the olders was back in the day. So I think it's an amazing thing that youth workers can be in the space to actually be trusted adults for young people.
It's funny because realistically, I'm just thinking about the title youth worker. I'd probably introduce myself as a retired youth worker. Obviously, as a trustee of an organisation that does youth work, I'm not necessarily doing youth work anymore, but through Black Jackets, some of the challenges and the issues draw you back out. Because, like, ideally in my heart, 3 years ago, I would have, like, retired from being what people call frontline and being out there. But we've had some very difficult situations that have happened in our city that has demanded and commanded that you have to step out and you have to try and make a difference. So what's been beautiful for me with the Black Jackets work is I've been able to, like, merge the ministerial world that I have and bring in youth work. So it's almost like ministerial youth work.
Love it.
Sorry.
I want you to, and anyone can do this. Explain to those who are listening and watching what are the Black Jackets, because I know, like, lots of people have Black Jackets hanging up on their coat hangers and their bedrooms, but what do you guys do?
You wanna go? I would say we're basically, in the easiest way, we're kind of like firefighters. A lot of the times when serious situations happen, and the best way I can describe it, when a young person gets shot, stabbed, or potentially at risk of county lines or gangs, the Black Jackets are here to support them. We usually are either one-to-one or actually detached youth work in the streets at unsociable times, which is usually between 6 and 10. And literally we very much, as I said, become, through the work that we've been doing, basically like a firefighter service for the young people, actually, when they're in crisis. And I'm talking about real crisis. They say, actually, you guys are the ones that can kind of make things happen, to say, get me out of it. And as I said, it's usually worst case scenarios that we have to deal with.
Yeah, and I think...
Go in a bit more. Tell me the difference between your normal Monday to Friday school youth worker and what you do. Sounds like it's a bit different.
What I think is important, if we just go back to how Black Jackets was even formed. Go ahead. A young man in our city has been murdered. Everyone's panicking and asking questions, and questions were asked of us as an organisation is like, what do you think is missing and what needs to be done? And when I took some time out to think about it, the gap that I could see, because at the time there was a heavy presence of the Step Together provision, over 13 different organisations around Birmingham commissioned to do stuff outside of schools. So there's quite a lot of daytime provision. People was doing, like, detached youth work in the city centre. But one of the gaps I seen was that after 6 p.m, I didn't really feel like there was a presence, and ultimately created a Black Jackets team to be a positive presence initially, and to go to hotspot areas where young people who were high risk or could be getting into gang activity or just high risk. And that's how it got formed, really. And that's the kind of root of it. I think what makes this different to just like general youth work is that it is high risk.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely high risk. We're working with young people who are gang affiliated. We're going areas, hotspot spaces where people are saying it's a no-go area. I think one of the most important things is that we have a presence and that we're able to engage with some young people who are deemed hard to reach or whose services say, no, you can't work with that young person. So for us, it's like working with a young person that we know. It's just giving that young person additional support. As we've been saying again, it's about being able to relate, being able to understand their experience, being able to understand their trauma that they've seen or things that they've experienced, and just giving them that opportunity, because the youth today have a lack of opportunity. And I feel that that's why a lot of the young people are getting involved in things they shouldn't get involved in, whether it be in county lines, whether it be selling drugs or any form of exploitation. So I think it's important that the young people have got someone that they can engage with and that they can speak to. We've been to police stations, we've been to prisons, we've been to...
I ain't been onto no police station.
I've been to police stations. I've been to police stations with young people.
Yeah.
You know who you are. We've also been to residential homes as well. We've also helped parents as well. Let's talk about parents whose kids have gone missing or kids have been exploited, or someone said, you know what, your son owes me £1,000. What do you do as a parent when you've got people knocking your door saying that we're going to beat up his son if he doesn't pay us this money?
Yeah.
These are the things that Black Jackets are getting contacted about. We're working under some real hard times and working with some real hard to reach young people who are going through some horrible experiences.
Do you guys want to add before I move on?
What's interesting is that obviously it's the relationships that we built with them that even allows us to do that in the first place.
And the trust.
And the trust. Because, yes, services have deemed them hard to reach, but for us it's kind of like, well, they trust us. So they actually will reach out to us, which is for services unheard of. But obviously because of the love and connection that we've shown over years of working in this community, we are the go-to people. So it's actually interesting.
I think that's the difference as well. Like when you've got the services, they're very, how do I put it? They're kind of structured. Yeah, red tape, structured. Whereas I suppose Black Jackets come across as blue ticked. Everybody knows Leon, everybody knows your face, everyone knows faces. So when you've got that trust, that's so important, especially like when you're in the community, you know what I mean? Because you don't know who to trust.
Sure.
And especially when it comes down to certain services, they're like, well, who are we? But because we're reaching out to the same youngsters that you're working with, but respectfully speaking, they don't always want to engage with them. So to engage with us is a lot more safer, if that makes sense.
So when you're talking about building trust and these relationships, because even the way you guys are talking, it's like I can feel there's a level of frustration because you know what you guys have to do. How do you, one, build trust with young people, but also how do you build trust with organisations that might see you and think, how are you doing this really? Like, how are you engaging with some of these young people?
I think for young people is we've built up a rapport, we've built up a relationship, we've built up experiences. So some of us, we know their parents, we've been working with them for many years, or we probably know their elder siblings as well, or they've attended some sessions that we've gone to or schools that we work at as well. So the young people, they trust us, they relate to us, they see us as a trusted provider.
There's a word that they say called lived experience. Being a practitioner that has lived experience, so you have a greater
Understanding.
it's like a greater empathy
Right.
and understanding, because when you've grown up in a certain environment and you face some of the challenges that the young people have faced, it's not in the same time, and we're not trying to act like we're young, but your empathy is different. There's a saying that they say in the hood that says real recognize real. And some things is like, I know it's not a word that we use in youth, but sometimes it's spiritual, it's like energy. It's
Like a connection, like a deeper level.
Like we're really here. And I think, like, especially when I look at like the team and the things that I've seen them do in terms of going the extra mile, like taking the young people out for meals, being out there to all hours at night with the young people. They build like the social capital with the youth, and if you've done something good with a few young people talk to other young people.
Yeah.
So we get talked about by the young people.
Yeah.
And you're gonna say like, them man are 30, or they'll say them man are Buki. Depends.
How many times has the latter happened?
Buki.
Yeah.
Quite a lot.
A lot.
Keep it 100.
Can you keep it be honest? Like, how many times have you got
'cause,
like?
we've done like, for instance, a big giveaway that was connected with one part of Birmingham that was on social media, went quite viral,
gosh.
and then you go back to the next set of young people to work with them, and they're like, "Yo,
what about us?
What are them man on? Them man was working with them man." But what we have to do all the time in it is we just address it.
We have to
Elephant in the
address
room.
it.
We ask them, we say it to them before they come to us.
Okay,
But we
so
know
you're
we've
addressing
seen
you charging in, addressing the elephant first.
Yeah,
before they
with
come
love and
at you.
respect, and understand that like if no one doesn't want to work, we understand, but understand that we are neutral.
Right.
We work with everyone, so we need to get this out. We work with the young people from Newtown, from Handsworth, from Erdington, from Northfield, from Kingstanding, from Ladywood, from Hockley, from Edgbaston, from Five Ways,
Birmingham.
from wherever you are in
Wherever you're
Birmingham,
from.
we work with you.
You know what, bro? I don't know how you started to name the area.
was thinking
if
that,
some of the
like,
youngers watch this and they'll be like, my man didn't say my area. What my man?
So B1 to B70.
Or postcode.
WV. If you're from Bronx,
Even the West Midlands, even
The West Midlands.
we got ya.
Just cover
We
it
got
up.
ya.
Let's just
Yeah,
say.
we're not leaving no one out. We work with everyone.
But you know what though?
Remember Leon said that?
Everyone. We work with everyone. Yeah, we don't leave no one out.
At the end. No one left behind.
But you know what though? This is something that I think even if we don't know the youths, it's how we're willing to go above and beyond for them. Because I'll give an example of over the last few weeks, one of the young people literally turned around to, and this is working with services as well, said to his social worker about another young person, the only person that can save him is basically the Black Jackets. So obviously the social workers then phoned us and said, yo, can we work with this person and individually whatnot? We've gone out to the community and literally for an hour we're searching for this young person. And once we found him in the park, we had a conversation where he was like, actually, no service will come out to us. So then they're like, actually, you guys are willing to go that extra mile?
How does that? Because you see, I'm hearing that no service will come out to us, and I know that that's why we're hearing all of that. But that's rubbish.
I know, but
Like in 2024, when we can have 24-hour ASDA, but you can't have all right.
But you know what it is?
24
I think it's more of one, having that time to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Two, actually knowing where the young person is, and three, be willing to be committed to finding that
Yeah.
young person. Because obviously
Yeah.
most people also will be like, well, if he ain't answering his phone, he ain't going to do it.
Yeah.
But we've got a different approach. So actually, if we
We're
can't
gonna
find
find
him,
him.
we'll go out and find
We're
him.
gonna find him.
We'll go to the hot spots. We'll go
This
to his
is it.
house, wherever his friends are hanging.
This is it.
Sometimes take food to them.
Yeah.
Ask his friends where he is and actually go the extra mile to say, actually, how do we get access to this young person that we need to see? Whoever it is from whatever area. And because we're willing to go there, we'll go to places that, as I said, you have a lot of youth workers and social workers and all these different people can't go into them areas like that.
I think as well, sometimes I think personally other services get a little bit nervous and twitchy of us because they're like, well, who are you? You're not well known, so why are we working with you? And I think what they seem to forget is, you know, they're not like Birmingham's favourites, not all the time, because they're not, let's keep it real, they're
Very
not.
much so.
But then also at the same time, they have to understand that there's other people that can reach different avenues that they can't. And I think that's what they're forgetting, because all they're thinking of is, we've got to do it this way, this way. Well, actually, you still have it that way, but how is it you need that person over there, you can't get to him or her, but yet my guy over here is just like, he's here with me. Exactly. And I feel like there's no trust there, there's no confidence that we're able to do something. Now, actually, they can't.
Yeah.
They can, but to a level of what we've got, if that makes sense.
I hear what you're saying. In the last conversation that we had in a previous episode, there was that looking down your nose. They're looking down their nose at sort of youth workers, and actually potentially even changing the name of youth workers to trusted adults.
Yeah.
And with qualifications like qualified practitioners, like you said, who do this work and are actually very good and can do things that you can't. And that shouldn't be a threat. That should be celebrated, shouldn't it?
Yeah, 100%. But I think my concern is they're the paper, respectfully speaking, they're the shirt and ties. They're shirt and ties. That's what I mean. They're
You know
shirt
what
and
it is
ties.
though?
So
Sorry to interrupt.
no, go ahead. Because I'll talk.
Perceived intention is the thing that I always look at. So the perceived intention is, what do they think that you're coming there for?
Yeah.
And like, as an example, with a social worker, they instantly think that they're coming here to basically like disrupt their family, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Take the kids away.
Yeah, and that's
Take
their
away-
perception.
yeah.
So they don't want that headache in their life,
of
where
course.
they will probably look at us like, actually, you guys can come sit down in Auntie's house and chill out and actually have that conversation and connect the pieces and basically be able to mediate in a very professional manner, which for a lot of services, they would probably do it, but it's their perceived intention of what they're going to do when they get in.
Yeah, exactly.
Powerful.
Very, very powerful. Thank you, guys. I'm going to move us on, and I want to take us a little bit further and a little bit deeper still, because you guys already said that you're working with, like Leon, you've said you're working with some pretty
Some really high risk individuals.
high risk individuals, and I guess there is always a consequence to some of the activities and some of the things that they do. So
I think what's important. Sorry to cut you. Sorry. Sorry. But when Leon said high risk, one of the things I think is important to communicate. We spent, what would you say, about 3 months
Yeah.
Mm.
with our risk assessments
Yes.
and going through and reviewing them,
Yep.
doing the traffic light system.
Break that down, Carly. Break down the risk assessment.
You're
part.
gonna
well, you was the one that was penning it, and
Right, I just about remember what happened yesterday. No, I think with the risk assessment, it was important that we use a traffic light system because it made it easier for whoever was going to read it. And then when we actually like sat in meetings and we discussed it, we saw it on paper and said, look, this is the breakdown. So guys, help me out here. The red, that's more the severe. So that if it as a high risk assessment is okay, what are we going into? We have to be prepared, right? And who we're dealing with.
So what could red mean? What could red
So
mean?
red could be a high risk as in gang affiliated. So say for example, there was a situation where we went to an event and it was the passing of someone who's very known and that was very high risk. We had to that couldn't have been a green or an amber. That was red because we had exactly, and also we had to put our own safeguarding in for that too.
And red,
Then you had go on. No, go
red
on.
usually means like threat to life.
Threat
Yeah.
to life.
Yeah,
Threat
or
to life,
serious
or danger.
violence towards other.
Yes, and also towards us as well. So
Yeah.
you know, you never know.
it's a threat to public life, so risk to society,
Yeah.
which is mad.
And what I think is beautiful, and it probably come out in other episodes, is all of this starts with a lot of planning, a lot of passion, a lot of like risk assessing, but we've also welcomed feedback from other partners. So Birmingham's Children's Trust, through the Empower You team, especially in the last phase of the work that we've been doing, we've had to we do our own risk assessments, but then we send them on to another organization that's a statutory service to review our risk assessments and just ask them to say, has there been anything that you think we've missed?
Yeah.
And I think we've had to move like that even more and welcome the feedback, even criticism or constructive criticism, to try and as much as possible mitigate risk, because there's been incidents where we've supported family, supported the community, and when we're doing the debrief of what happened at the scene and stuff like that, there's things that we said, we could even tighten up this and make it even more better. So I thought it's important to say that because I'm conscious that people can sometimes hear the high risk or hear some of the young people we're working with, and it can sound glamorous. But from our perspective, and I can speak on behalf of the team, we don't necessarily see young people as like clients or like service users. We just see them like our young brothers, members of the family, members of the community,
Nephews, nieces.
nephew, and it's a different lens that you're looking at them. You are aware of the risk, but being non-judgmental is so critical in this work. Really asking yourself the question, do you actually love these young people? These things really help. So I just wanted to give that in.
Thank you for jumping all the way to my third question and getting all the way in. But no, it's really helpful for context, and we will dig deeper because like you said, and as I was saying, that you are dealing with some of the most challenging, difficult situations with young people and their families. And I say all the time, they're still just children. Like, let's be honest, they are children doing things that adults should do sometimes. And we need to remember that when we're thinking about them. So I know that sometimes people just be like, yeah, this generation, and yeah, the young people, and yeah, but they are children. And we have to still take care of them and look after them. Also, a massive round of applause and thank you guys for the actual phenomenal work that you do, because even though I know we have many rivers to cross with this stuff, many rivers to cross, you are doing amazing work. So don't lose faith and hope. But I do want to take you a little bit deeper in, as I was saying before, and I'm going to come this way first and then go that way. Yes, Carly, I'm coming over here. Now, I know in the last 6 months alone, there have been significant tragedies that have happened in Birmingham. And I'm going to go there. This is called Confessions of a Youth Worker, right? Get your water. Everyone take a sip. And I really want you to talk and share as much as you can and you feel willing and able to share the experiences of dealing with the loss of a young person through youth violence, so they've been stabbed or they've been shot. As a youth worker, tell us about that experience.
I think for me, it's knowing the ages of these kids. They are just kid voices going, so I'm obviously feeling it. They are kids. Do you know what I mean? When you look at the ages that they are, I couldn't imagine being 14, 15, and you know, I'm in qualms with other people, and they will happily end my life because of something that could be really trivial. I think from my point of view, it's an eye opener to what these kids have to go through, and it's, you know, you want to save them all, but at the same time, it's like, okay, you can give someone the tools to build something, but if they don't want to build something, sometimes you kind of just have to let them, you know, here's the tools, but I'm going to help you. I'm going to show you how to make a Lego house. If you choose to not make that Lego house, that's okay, but I'm still going to see you grow, because at some point you will want to make that Lego house, and I'll be here. I don't know if that's even answered the question because I've gone so off topic.
That's true. No, it does.
But I think when it comes down to the loss of it, obviously there's been situations which we all know about, which is, and you're involved, and then it just sort of goes a little bit left. People forget that a child has just passed, and therefore it gets messy for no reason, and that then annoys me even more, because it's like, look at the space that we're in, just have a bit of respect. And also that's, you know, that possibly if you don't look at what you're doing, it could be you in that position and your mom there too. I'll pass on to you.
Thank you for sharing, honestly. Thank you. You ready?
Can you ask the question again, because I feel like I want to get it right.
You know, there's been several tragedies, losses of life from stabbings and shootings and things that have happened in our city within the last 6 months alone, especially for young people under the age of 18. So we're talking 15, 16-year-olds. As a youth worker, as a mentor, as a person that's supporting young people all the time, when did you first experience a loss like that? And tell me about it. Tell me how it
first experience probably was like, I think it was 7 years ago, when one of our young people that, I'm not gonna lie, it was quite hard to deal with, because obviously it was like, you tried with him, but you knew what kind of path he was going down, if that makes sense. But obviously you try, and there's only so much you can really do. But when he gets shot in his head, it's like, how do you even process that? But then obviously, because at the time we wasn't directly working with him at that minute, it kind of felt like I didn't see him for long, and I kind of just heard the news. So I still felt it and was like, actually, it's deep. But it wasn't like how probably like the last 6 months to a year has been, if that makes sense. I think one thing that I found hard first, before getting into the last 6 months, is burying young people. Like, the part that always gets me, like I can do the graveside, the crying, I can do all of that, but it's the eulogy. because every single eulogy of a young person literally says he's been school and there's nothing more. And then the teacher always comes up and says, this boy was good and X, Y, and Z. And you're sitting there thinking, he ain't even experienced life. And like, then you've got to deal with the aftermath of actually, mum has no son. Friends have no friend. Brothers have no brother. What do? How do you consult these people that have been through something that they should never have experienced at that stage of their life? Yeah. And then obviously then it gets deeper when you're working directly at the time with that young person and they ask to get out, they want out. And then that something like that happens. He's like, you can't even make sense of it. And then while you're trying to process that, because obviously we are the youth workers in the community, you've now got to put on your cape and your strong outfit and go out there and support. But realistically, and this is just being 100% transparent, I don't feel like we was probably in the right position to be dealing with that at that point because we were still grieving. Absolutely. But because of how we are as youth workers and how we are as community workers, we're like, well, we've got to stand up because if we ain't standing up, who is? And as we start to know, and we've gone many funerals, which is actually horrible to even say that alone, when it comes to actually digging up that dirt, you've got to step in because literally the families are broken. And it's not even talking about like literally seeing like mum and dad just break down at the graveside because obviously you've lost a child.
That was their baby.
That's their baby. That still is their baby. Yeah. So it's like, how do you deal with this when realistically it's continually still happening? Yeah. And that's what makes it even harder because now we're actually dealing with the grieving process. Yeah. And the grieving process is literally young people that say, you know what? I've lost a friend, so forget it. I'm on anything now. So then we still got to deal with that. So the work still continues.
Yeah. So it's trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that you say that because I like you, Antonio, I think it was, I can't remember, it was a few years back, another funeral, we say, because there's so many and it's just sad because you can't believe you're saying another life has been lost. But I can remember our team and you were actually there and there was nobody because it was just all children at the graveside. And I say children like 13, 14, 15-year-olds have come from school to come to this funeral. The family is very female. There's not very many males. And there was no one to fill the grave. And I remember you and another team member picking up the shovel. I still have vivid memories, and I've got a photo on my phone of you doing that. And I was absolutely livid. I was livid because this should not be happening. We shouldn't be here. And yet we're still here. So there's something about it. Coming to my left. Guys, thank you, Tone, for sharing. And we're going to go in a little bit more in a minute. But your experiences, because, again, like you said, Nathan, you'd say retired youth workers, but in a ministerial capacity, you are doing things that I don't think you would have ever imagined in a million years that you will be doing?
It's quite unbelievable, to be honest. And even just listening to colleagues just talk, I feel emotional, I feel triggered because I don't think people understand the depths of like what it is. Like my last significant situation that I had to personally support, the dads invited me into the ICU intensive care unit as the nursing staff are preparing to turn off the life support machine. And he's asking me to say a few words and say a prayer. And I'm in the room and it's just mum, dad, and the sister. And you're kind of trying to like stay focused and be there for their family, but you're like, what is really going on here? And it's absolutely like, it's unbelievable. There's one hand of me feeling like it was an honor, and I don't ever take it for granted, and a privilege to be able to be in such a sacred moment and space. But at the same time, it's really annoying and frustrating because it's like I carry in my head the politics of the city, the politics of the economics, the politics of the fact that the Black Jacket team wasn't commissioned for the last, I think, 6 months before that. And we had done pitches, we had done presentations, we had done open evenings, and we was pleading with different people to say, look, this thing needs to continue, but no one would listen to us. But when a tragedy happened, all of a sudden, like, people starting to listen just for a short window, because now it feels like it's a bit calmer, and it's just, yeah, so there's a lot of emotion there. There's a lot of, it's all I can say is just like incredibly hard.
It is hard. And I think the reason why I'm asking the questions is because people don't realise how hard it is. They see the circus that goes on around what happens when a young person is lost, and you might see stuff on the news, but it's only for a news cycle and then it's gone, you know, and you might see funding and then funding disappears. But the reality is you guys and many others like you up and down the country are doing this work and are still supporting the families today of children that lost their lives 3, 4, 5 years ago, because there's an aftermath, there's a recurring aftermath that goes on, and there's trauma in our communities because of that. So when something like this happens, Leon, what types of activities happen? Like, because I know I've seen vigils, I've seen, you know, so tell me what kinds of things you guys will be doing at a time like that.
So I think the most important thing is to always support the families. You know, I've been doing this work for 20 years, and nothing can prepare you for loss of life, or when a young person, let's get this thing right. It's not like a young person's died or had an illness or, you know, wasn't very well, or, you know, they've been killed, they've been murdered. Someone's took their life away. So that in itself, you know, it's hard to deal with. It's hard to cope that a young person has lost their life before it's even started. I think the main thing is always supporting the families. So, as Nathan says, we've been to ICUs where young people are saying their last goodbyes. Parents are, you know, speechless, don't know what to say. We're having to hold parents. We're having to hold young people. We're having to actually hold up young people, especially the young people that you've worked with or you've actually delivered a service to. I think one of the main hard things is looking the parents in the face or in the eyes, and there's nothing you can say apart from, I'm here. What do you need from me? So you ask, what do we do? How do we support? One of the main things that we try and do, well, not even try, one of the main things that we do is we come with love. So if we come to the hospital, we might come with food, we might come with water. We'll always have some money in our pocket because there'll be young kids, there'll be some kids that just want some crisps, chocolate, just to probably walk down the hallway. I remember one time we was in the ICU and Carleen was there with 2 babies.
Yeah.
And no one doesn't think about that.
Yeah, who's looking after the kids of the people that are grieving, right?
That's the picture. I was actually going to show Carleen that picture. It's on my phone. Because I took a picture, I don't know if you know, but I took a picture of you.
No.
Yeah, because we was on the ward in the hospital.
You buy the
and I was like, it blew my head because you had the baby in your hand and you was pushing the pushchair. And I was like, people don't even see this. And people don't understand like the multifaceted.
Yeah.
Like you're supporting a family, you're grieving and looking after the baby.
It's weird because in that situation, I mean, I could see the one of the women and, you know, she was visibly upset, and I thought, the least I can do is just let me look after the kids. So I kind of put a motherly hat on, and I don't have any kids. So I was like, okay, just look after them. And they were fine with me. And they also trusted me to look after their kids as well. So I kind of I felt privileged in that space to kind of just say, look, I'm not just here for you, I'm also here to look after you as well. So that was important to me to give.
There's just so much little.
I think the parts that we don't talk about as well is the youth that's directly around him, that literally, or around them, should we say, literally giving them support, taking them out for food, giving them counselling service or access to counsellors, and literally just giving them the support that they need for when they need it right now, rather than just waiting for them to potentially get themselves in another scenario because they're grieving. But obviously, when you're grieving, to also know that someone's willing to be out there with you and grieve and support you makes a massive difference for them. But these are the parts that we don't talk about.
Or even just doing the basics, like offering young people like life skills or helping them just have a CV. You've got young people saying, you know, I want to get out, I don't want to be involved, I don't want to die.
Yeah.
What you do when you hear a young person say, I don't want to die?
You remember that session that we did when we bought the flip chart paper to one of the houses and started to just get the young people to write on the paper of how they're feeling. So that's like a therapeutic workshop. What we know as practitioners, like we're actually doing a workshop, but how we're delivering it is in the middle of a house and we're making it feel like you're not actually in a workshop, but you are in a workshop.
Yeah. So you're using your skills, and this is the importance, and I've said it and I'm going to keep saying it's the importance of the qualified and skilled practitioners with lived experience to deliver these things, because just because you have lived experience doesn't mean you can go out there and support. And also, you know, this stuff is hard. Like, we make no bones about it. We're not bragging and boasting, and like you said, we're not glamorizing it. We're here to let you know that this gets real. I know we've talked about loss and we've talked about funerals, but I've got a very vivid memory of something that happened not so long ago where I felt incredibly distressed as a leader of an organisation that my team had gone in to a funeral with Bulletproof Vest on.
Okay, but before we go to there, we need to rewind and say why we had to work.
Why did we have to do this, Leon? Why did we have to do this? Because can you imagine, as a person maybe watching or listening this, I'm saying, what is this? What is this? What are we actually doing? So let's go back to come forward.
Again, so let's go back. We was attending a funeral, a young man that was murdered. As we attended this funeral, we noticed, so as anyone who goes to a funeral, there's three parts to a funeral. So you've got the church, you've got the burial, and then you've got the wake. So we attended the church, we supported. We noticed that there was a lot of disturbance. There was, what was going on in the church, guys?
Right.
Tell me what was going on in the church.
As far as I remember, there was one boy that was basically connected with the situation.
Yeah.
And when he was connected with the situation, the youths realised that he was in the building. And we had to escort him out the side entrance to get him out safely. And that was in the church.
How did it feel? Do you think the church was prepared for
Not even slightly. I think the magnitude of people that were there and the risks that came along with the people that were there and the location of the people that were there, the church didn't have a slight clue what was going on. And obviously they didn't even understand that it was, let's keep it real, a gang member's funeral. So now you've got a load of gang members that's come to grieve their friend, obviously emotional, liquored, and now you're taking them into a church and that's then basically asking them to be civil.
How did you feel, Carlene? What did you see at the church?
I think even though it's beautiful, I felt a little bit of tension, but I still felt there was still an element of respect, and that's what I kind of I liked, because everyone, I think it's the elders as well, because I think there was more elders there than kids, I think, and I think from what I remember, and it was just it was calm. It was actually calm considering.
It's just risky, man. It was just mad because it was, and this is what we've tried to improve with the recent incident, is like build better partnerships or communications with churches, just to try and do a risk assessment with them, to get them to understand. Just not understand. I think this is another Be My Bonnet is about education and training, just to understand that, like, not everyone's coming there to say hallelujah.
No, you're right.
Many are not coming.
Some are looking to like let off their frustration and anger.
Tell me about the burial. What happened? So church is finished. We've noticed that it's very risky, very challenging. You've got a set of young people from different areas. Some young people everyone's wearing black.
Yeah.
So basically one of the youths in it got moved to at the
Burial.
Can you explain what that means?
Moved to.
Yes.
Basically,
not everybody will understand the language.
In the Queen's English, a young person was getting approached by a group of young people, and we had to intervene as a team.
Okay.
And basically remove this young person from the scene immediately, or his life was basically in danger.
Okay.
Exactly that happened. What else happened at the gravesite, Antonio?
Which part are we talking about? With family or with friends?
The memory that triggers me and it always messes me up, bro. I'll be honest. Out of everything that we've done, that and some of the stuff that happened at the hospital, the other scenario, is one of the most craziest ones. When, thank God you got a gym, but
Serious.
when
There was a mum that wanted to jump in. She wanted to jump in the grave with her son.
I think that was probably. I think I would just blanked out of my mind. It was so sad because actually, a mum literally tried to jump in the grave to be with her son that had passed away.
So what did you
Now,
do? What did you
for
do?
me personally, obviously you can't allow a mum to jump in the grave because obviously it's not appropriate for the circumstance. So I had to hold her up and just hold her and say, actually, it's going to be okay. I'm here. And literally she just cried on me and I had to hold her with a bit of force so that she doesn't jump
Like
in.
you're not jumping
Yeah.
in. You're not going in.
But the reality is that actually, I had to show that we're here. Like, you don't need to. We are here. And I'm going to support you through this. And I had to talk to her. Like, literally, I'm here. I'm here. Like, I've got you. And literally, she just cried in my arms as she's trying to jump in. And I'm not going to lie. You can't make that up. Because as I said,
But I always remember that you was the only one who was holding her up.
Literally.
There was no family, there was no kids. It was you and her.
Yeah,
You actually
literally.
stopped her.
That is very common though. When the thing is, and that's what I say when I go back to my example, is that as frustrating, as annoying as it is, these things happen. It's really sad at the same time. It's that these people are so broken, they can't even support each other. There needs to be more support in environments like that where people are incredibly vulnerable. And look at that, we could have had another crazy situation. But for time, I'm going to move us on. Just because there's things that I think we've talked about, some heavy stuff, but there's things that you guys must have to do to safeguard yourselves. So when
you do
these
that, before you do that, yeah.
just before you can
No,
see
because you said about your scenario, because I know through speaking with you, like when like managing and overseeing Black Jackets, I know for you one of the hardest things was when you dropped off the bulletproof vest to us as a team, and you're kind of thinking, what the hell is going on? Like, this is not good. And the reason why we had to have bulletproof vests, because when we was doing a risk assessment for the funeral that we're supporting, based on the fact that we've had a funeral in the past that we've supported that actually got shot up. So that's the context. Going back to that funeral, me and Antonio had just finished. I'm going backwards first and then go forward. Me and Antonio just finished the shift. We left the rest of the team at the funeral. We was actually going to a baptism to support the celebration of new life. And all of a sudden, the phone call came, there's been a shooting. And things we'll probably do different now, and probably won't actually do different, but we apologize to our family members that was upset with us. But we flew to the scene in the van. I got to the scene and we just walked into the room. I'm seeing pandemonium. There's about 3 young people that are being shot. There's old people on the floor. There's screaming. There's police officers, firearm officers everywhere, and we're trying to sort it all out. And the best thing that we could do as a team was just ferry as much young people and get them away from the scene and get them home to safety. And people just don't understand that. So based on that funeral, we deemed it necessary that if we're supporting another funeral, you gotta understand the team has already stab-proof vests, but we had to upgrade the vest, make sure that it was bulletproof, ballistic proof, and also invested in some walkie-talkies so that we could improve our communication with each other. And that was just based on the risk assessment.
and that goes back to your traffic light system.
Yes.
So even though at the time I know it was a tedious ask to be going through this very rigorous safeguarding process, and I don't think when we were doing them processes way back then, and people was complaining and cussing and this is long and how it's going to take, we know what we're doing, it's true. But nobody could have foreseen what happened, like what happened last year.
So how did you feel about bringing those bulletproof vests? Yeah, go on.
I'll tell you straight, I am not doing that again, and you lot are not going out there again in bulletproof vests. That is off. End of discussion. I've taken it to the board of trustees, and I have said under no circumstances, like I get it from the previous, all the other things that have happened. But for me, as the CEO and essentially responsible for all of you. I don't see you as what everybody else sees you as, which is superheroes in black capes. I see you as a husband and a father, yourself the same. Like, you've all got responsibilities, you've got a family, you've got real lives to go home to. And also, it is not fair. You are not the police.
I think that's something I want to touch on.
Yeah.
'Cause, I don't think we talk about this as youth workers enough. Like, actually, the impact that it has on our families when you're doing that. Like, my wife costs, like, why are you going to work in a bulletproof vest? This don't make sense. Like,
don't make sense.
you
They
can
don't
do all you
understand it. They
want,
don't understand
but
it.
real harsh reality is if you lose your life, you ain't got, your family ain't got you no more. And I had to really explain to her, like, obviously, this is what we do in Red City. She's like, well, that's all fun and games, but what happens to me?
Right. And she's right. And you know, because on that day, I don't think I don't even know what happened, but all I had was you in my mind.
Yeah.
And I called you and I was like, Antonio, I need to pray with you, which is fine. We'll do that. But I just need you to know, like, retreat. If there's, and I think that's the gut thing. I think your gut is connected to your head. And once you start to feel those feelings like something is gonna go left here, something doesn't feel right, I think there's got to be a boundary that we don't cross. And I believe that the minute that you know you have to put on a bulletproof vest to go anywhere, you cross the boundary. Personally, because you're not police, you're not firearms officers.
I need to give a joke.
Just lighten the load then. Come on.
No, we're doing the briefing, you know. Right. And we've bought in and got the budget. A specialist trained SIA trained security team. So we're all doing the brief. So all the black jackets are
I know
there.
what you're gonna say.
The security team are there, and it's like we're going through the briefing, and it says, and then I said to the team, the bulletproof vests are on the way. And the security go, what? Bulletproof vest? You never tell me about this. I want this. Me I go on my yard and get my thing. And like, it's not funny, but it was funny. But in the moment, it was like the shock horror on the and these security are big, you know.
They're big.
But when they realized that we're putting on vests, they're like, what
is going on?
When my one there.
what kind of food and all this? What do you need vests? So yeah, that's just a little light in the load thing. But yeah. But
It
back
is.
to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. And I remember pulling up, but I was just like, God, I'm so annoyed. This whole thing is not what you want to be doing. But outside of all of that, and I know we've talked about the stuff, the safeguarding, the risk assessment stuff, how do you guys safeguard yourselves? Like, what do you do? I know within our organisation, we have supervision, we do therapy, we do personal therapy and all of that, but what do you do for yourself?
For me, I've got a family, I've got a wife, I've got 5 kids. So for me, and 2 grandchildren. So for me, it would be spend time with the family, go gym, not as much as Antonio, but go gym. And just do some family stuff, just rest, chill, reflect, and just probably, do something that makes me feel good, whether it's go to the gym, go on a date night with the wife, or just go out with the family, just do something with the family, just have our time, family time.
Nice.
And therapy.
Love that. What do you do?
I just remember that this is not between the sheets.
Keep it PG.
So, what I do sometimes, I really lock off and retreat, and go into my secret place. And for me, that is sometimes turning off my phones, and it's not been accessible to no one. And spend a lot of time in prayer, journaling, and then practically going for personal therapy to unpack and talk about my experiences. Because it comes, sometimes things come delayed, innit? It's like sometimes you're just sitting there and it's like, whoa. Because sometimes, when you're in the midst of the work, unless you step back, and this is why I always encourage be a reflective practitioner, and unless you reflect, you don't even realize the magnitude of what you're being involved. Like when we're talking now, we're thinking about dropping off bulletproof vest. That sounds so stupid, innit? Like, what the hell? But when you're in it, you're in it, and you're just doing what you're doing. So yeah, that's what I do. Yeah.
I knew he's going to come to me.
Of course I am.
Do you know what? Honestly, I struggle with finding doing things in my own time, to be fair, because what I do is I'll do the opposite. If I'm feeling a type of way or emotionally or whatnot, I will throw myself into work to the point where I do so much that I'm so tired that all I can think of is about being tired. I think with the first situation that happened, I couldn't fathom that. That was a lot for me. We did have the therapy afterwards, but I think I put it into a little box, and the box was so there that I didn't even look into it because I thought, you know what, just carry on. So for me, that's a bit of a hard question to answer because I'm still learning myself, even as we speak right this moment. But I'm doing it, but I'll just do it in my own time. So yeah, that's mine. Sorry.
I have a lot of systems for this because obviously, one, we're still dealing with the young people that are going through this. So obviously it's continually going through not even the grieving process anymore, but more of the dealing with the pain. Obviously, counselling. I think from December, I've been going December I was going twice a week. Up until literally about 2 months ago, now I go monthly, just to make sure that I'm topped up and making sure I'm speaking. Because what I had a tendency to do is literally just block everything out and just continue to work. But the reality is that actually you're going through some serious things. So you got to deal with it. Gym was one, obviously, ridiculous amount of times a week. Kickboxing.
I mean, you can't count the amount of times.
You say 6 times a day?
Ridiculous times a week.
Every hour.
Kickboxing, bouldering, journaling, drawing, which is a new one.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But I think even more importantly, and this was the main key thing that I was looking at, is that a lot of the things that was happening, I used as a distraction. So I said, I'm going to slow down. Yeah. And I started to go for walks. Yeah. And while doing walks, just reflecting and seeing actually, how am I feeling? Yeah. What is going on? And if there is feelings that I'm feeling that I don't understand, what am I going to do about it? And is there something to do about it, or can I just feel it? Yeah. But I had to go through that process to say, actually, I'm not in this season willing to just keep going. It's not healthy.
Will you ever stop supporting young people? Because I know some people have said they're retired, but I don't know.
No. No.
Like, I feel like it's
might be in a different capacity, but no, never stop supporting young people.
Never.
Not like what Leon says. I say I'm retired, mate. But never stop making sure that there's systems and things in place to try and support. Like, for me, I am never, ever, ever going to forget where I come from.
Mm-hmm. I love it. You guys?
Just never stop. At the end of the day, if you're sometimes here, doesn't mean you're too far. It just means I'm here. You just need to, when you're ready, I'm available all times. And being able to have that, someone have access to you as well. Because sometimes you might not see them for like a month or two, but they can drop you a message on Instagram. How you doing? How's things? So, okay, cool. You're doing well. Like, there's one individual that I do speak to, and I'm so proud of her. I'm like, all right, I'm getting tearful now. But I'm so proud of where she's come from and how she's kind of grown and done a thing. And it's so nice to see that, you know what, you was part of that. So I don't think it will ever stop. You'll never stop. Because you don't stop. So yeah.
You can't.
Can't stop time.
Yeah.
Don't stopping.
I've tried. The harsh reality is that even when you try, the community will always be there and you always get dragged back in no matter what. And I feel like that's part of the calling what I personally feel God has called me to do. Yeah. So I can never stop, even if I try.
And I think perhaps, man, you still see young people from 10, 20 years. Oh, I remember you helped me do this. You had an inspiration in my life. Like, me.
Yeah, literally.
It's mad.
I think that's a beautiful side of it though. Like, yes, we talk about serious youth violence and all these different things, but actually we do save a lot of youths.
Yeah, we do have a lot of impact on a lot of young people.
And I think...
I told you, go on.
Nah, sorry. I think it was when I was at an event and literally it was the parents saying, oh, you're Antonio. I'm like, yeah, sure. Oh, my kids talk about you. And I'm like...
Oh, okay.
But the reality is that actually for parents, especially in the communities that we come from, they probably don't have the time or the capacity or the emotional capacity to deal with the situation that the young people are doing it, or they probably don't even know. But because we are the trusted adults, they come to us and actually they're thankful because, as we say, it takes a village to raise a child. So...
You said we're doing here and I've got a young person trying to call me.
Well, on that note, I just want to hear one thing from each one of you. I want to hear your confession. Your one hard-hitting confession that either challenges or inspires a parent, adult practitioner, or a young person. I want to hear your youth worker confession. What is your confession of being a Black Jacket member? I don't know, anybody can go first.
Not me.
As a Black Jacket member or as a
Youth
youth worker?
a youth worker.
Okay, I'll
As
go.
a youth worker, let's make it easy.
I'm going to keep it 100. I'm going to keep it real.
Come on.
I think one of my biggest confessions is, and I think the reason why I really get it, because I come from the same place. I was, what's the right word, terminology? I was a bad youth. I was a bad youth. You know
I
what I'm
never
trying
knew
to say?
that.
Yeah, I was.
Didn't know
I
that.
was. So it just shows that anybody can change. You know what I mean? I come from poverty, so who knows it, feels it. So I truly understand it. So I say that's my confession. I understand it. I get it because I come from it.
Get it. Love it.
No idea.
And my confession is that don't underestimate the levels of frustration and challenge that we are going through in terms of navigating so much challenges. I know it's not for this podcast, but one of the things from a leader perspective that frustrates me is that people just don't get it, man. Like, you just don't get the work, the hospital visits, the vigils, the family visits, the working hours, and you're tired, and then you get this mad criticism that comes from the community or different people that don't understand like just what it takes to try and do something. It's like it's not an easy road. Yeah. So my confessions is just understand that anyone that's in this space from whatever walk of life, everyone's battling their own challenges, and it's not easy. Even though we're leading, sometimes we're leading and bleeding. And people don't understand that. So yeah, that's my confession, that it's not hard, but I would say, just like what Tone says, if you're not called to this work, stay the hell away.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Thank you.
For me, real confession, I actually thought, what can I bring to this team? I genuinely thought that, because I was like, okay, everyone's got different backgrounds and whatnot, and I went uni. I did, the I don't know, the conventional things, and I was thinking, okay, well, how am I going to relate? And then I thought, well, actually, that's you thinking that you're not good enough to be in a space with the team, when actually you can bring stuff that, some of the team might not be good at. Yeah. And that kind of made me feel a little bit better. And also I can reach out to the girls as well. Can't reach out as much as to the guys, because obviously I've got the guys, but with the girls it was kind of like, okay, there are also there's girls that also need help as well. Yeah. So it's also nice for me, it's like, if you want to change, that's great. Let's see what we can do. I love doing CVs, so let me know. I'm that person. I'll do the reports and everything, as you know.
As I know.
But I was worried about, am I going to fit in? And actually, do you know what? These are literally my family. So I wouldn't ask for anything else. And I miss them. I miss us. And you know that when you're taking a look at me.
Colin, can I just say to you that, genuinely, you are absolutely amazing. You're truly phenomenal. And without you on the team, seriously, we couldn't be a team.
Yeah.
Like, you bring such a unique speciality, you bring such an energy. You bring us together.
I was thinking the same thing.
I would just say to you, thank you for everything that you've done and the sacrifices that you make that no one sees.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh gosh. But last but by no means least, Antonio, what's your confession?
I think it's kind of like being a father and being a family member. That's probably one of the hardest things to do while doing what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. Because number one, obviously, you're leaving your kids to go out and support a community, but your kids need you. And I'm not gonna lie to you, especially having a daughter around the same age and a young, obviously little cousins around the same age, and they're going through that same stuff. I'm like, actually, if I devoted all of that time to them, potentially they wouldn't be going through that. But the reality is that this is the community that we're brought up in. So this is something why we do what we do, so they can look at us and say, actually, you are in the community and you're also supporting. So it's like a double-edged sword, like literally, how do you save them? How do you save them? Also, how do you save the community? It's like, you can't.
But rest assured, you're doing a phenomenal job.
That's what I tell myself every day.
I'm not here. I'm telling you, you did a phenomenal job.
Can I say one thing quickly?
Sure.
I'd like to big up the rest of the team members that
Yeah,
are
I
here
was gonna-
as well. So, JV, Mighty, and Jay. I want to big up the rest of the
Yeah.
team members as
Big up
well.
yourself.
Thank
Yeah.
you, guys. I was going to say, this
sorry.
isn't the entire team, but you've bigged them up, so thank you, and I'll big them up too.
Yeah.
They are amazing, and
Couldn't do it without the whole team.
couldn't
Like it's
do
a
that.
team effort.
Everybody brings
Yeah.
something, and everybody's difference makes a difference. So, thank you so much. That is the end of this particular episode of Confessions of a Youth Worker podcast. When ish gets real, I believe it got real. Thank you so much, Antonio, Carlene, Nathan, Leon, and the mighty Black Jackets team. Yeah, we'll be back really soon. Thank you. So listening to the Black Jackets for me and thinking about the work that they do, which is incredibly important, but also really risky. You know, what springs to mind is that importance of self-care and personal therapy, supervision, and doing things completely unrelated to the type of work that they do, because it's actually incredibly traumatic. How do we make sure that we take care of our team members and our staff? You know, making supervision and therapy mandatory in our organisation is something that we've always done, but I know it's not practiced everywhere. So that's something to consider, how we move forward when we're working with children that experienced incredible trauma, and therefore youth workers experience that vicarious trauma. How we help them through those processes is just as important as helping the young people themselves.